Hey guys, hi everyone. Good morning. Hello Sumit, good morning. Shubham, Tara, good morning. Good morning everyone. I hope I'm audible. Hi Arka, good morning. I hope I'm audible as well as visible. Am I? Good morning Sukhjot. Good morning. Good morning guys. Good morning everyone. Good morning Sagar. Good morning Ashutek. Good morning everyone. So I can see people are joining, tuning in, and I can see 16 people have as of now joined. Please put a message in the WhatsApp group, anyone, and ask your friends to join as soon as they can so that we can start with our session. Walaikum salam, Sadi. Good morning, Manmohan. Perfect. Thank you so much for the confirmation, Arka. So we will just start in 1 or 2 minutes. Let's wait for rest of the people to join, and then accordingly we are going to start our class. Okay. So the batch name is August 24, right? And we are currently discussing our JavaScript, and we are currently discussing arrays, right? And that's what we are going to discuss in today's class as well. We'll try to complete our arrays. That's our agenda for today's class, but provided if enough students join. And remember, today's class is going to be very important class because we are going to discuss a very important data structure that is too much used in terms of JavaScript, in terms of web development, in terms of back end, in terms of front end, everywhere almost. Good morning, Dasu. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well, and I hope I can see more people joining in very soon. We are going to wait 1 or 2 minutes, and let's wait 1 or 2 minutes for rest of the people. In the meantime, if you have any doubts related to our previous class, please make sure that you put in the chat. Perfect. I guess we can start our today's class. Though only there are 19 students, I'm definitely expecting many more than that, but let's not waste our any more time and let's start our class directly. I hope my screen is visible to all of you, right? Is it visible, guys? Do we have any issues, or shall I start the class? Shall we start? Perfect. Perfect. Let's start. Okay, let's start. So let's quickly try to understand what we are here for. Okay, we are here to understand in today's class. The agenda is very simple. We have to understand what arrays are, what are the different methods that we actually encounter in arrays, and why they are important over here. Good morning, Ankit. Good morning, everyone. And remember, in our previous class as well, we understood that whenever we talk about web development, the most important thing is the method that are implemented on these arrays, right? We have already seen few of the methods, whether we talk about push, whether we talk about pop, whether we talk about shift, whether we talk about unshift. Walaikum salam, Hania. So we are going to move forward. We are going to understand more 10, 15 methods. And I request all of you to take proper notes over here because these methods are very important and you will be using them too much in your web development. Okay. So let's not waste our time. Let's directly start our discussion for today's class. I hope everyone is going to be here until the end. Do not think of leaving the class because every method is very crucial. Every method is very, important. If you remember, we ended our last discussion on understanding what array data structure is, what is indexing, and we also understand that whenever we talk about creating an array over here, it's not necessary the values throughout are going to be from one single data type. There can be different data types over there, including in a single implemented in a single array as well. And then we started very few methods, whether we talk about push, whether we talk about pop, whether we talk about shift, whether we talk about unshift over here. These were the few methods that we actually discussed in our previous class. I have a very simple question before I move forward. I want to understand from your side. Whenever we actually implement push method on any array, What does push method return? Always remember there are two things that we need to keep in our mind. Okay, number one is what that method is going to do to the original array. Second thing is what is it going to return. If we talk about push method, it will push these arrays, these elements on the array I am implementing it. But on the other hand, when we talk about what it returns, it's going to return the length of the array that we have, total length of the array, updated length of the array. Exactly, that's what it's going to return. In a similar way, pop will return the last element of the array, shift is going to add the return the first element, and shift is going to add the rest of the element at the first index. These are the few things which we discussed in our previous class. Let's understand few more methods, very important methods. There are two types of methods, always remember, in array. Okay, one method is that's going to simply make real change on the original array. It's going to update the original array. Whether we talk about push, it updated the original array. Whether we talk about pop, it updated the original array. Later on in today's class, we will see some of the methods. They will not update the original array, but they will do something else. They might return a new array out of it, or they might do something else. But they won't affect your original array that we have. Let's try to understand one of the methods called as concat, also a very important method. Let's suppose I have an array over there, ARR, and I have a simple values inside them 1, 2, comma 3. Okay. And I have one another array there called as ARR2. Now, what I want to do is I simply want to implement an operation like this where ARR2 is equals to, it will contain, let's suppose 4, 5, 6. I want to create one another array over here. And what that array is going to do, it's simply going to concatenate these two arrays, which means it's going to add these two arrays. The resultant array that I am actually looking for is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That should be a single array. How can we do that? We can simply use a method over there called as concat method. So I have defined one other variable over there called as ARR3, and I have told it on my ARR, please concat, please add what ARR2. So if I simply try to go and try to print now ARR3, you can clearly see in the output window over there that we have, you can see it's a concatenated array containing ARR1 and ARR2 together. Now, this is what we mean by concatenation. In a similar way, if I now want to create one another array, let's suppose I want to simply go over there, instead of storing this over here, what I will do is I will simply go create more elements inside this, something like this. Now, I want to create array 4. That will simply concatenate array 1, array 2, array 3 over there and return a new array out of it. So I can simply go say ARR is equals to on my ARR1, please concat. Concat what? Concat ARR2, comma ARR3. And in this case, if I simply go console.log my ARR, you can clearly see we actually have the single array, that is concatenation of all these three arrays. Okay. Now, one very important point here, which is the order you mention over here, that will be the same order in which concatenation will happen. Maybe you do not want this order. You want ARR2 first, then ARR3, then ARR1. In that case, you can simply put an empty array over here. Maybe if you want to do that as well, you can do that on an empty array, which means inside this array, please concatenate. Please, with this empty array, concatenate what? ARR2, ARR3, comma ARR1, or whatever order you want. In this case, if I try to execute, you can clearly see we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3. The order you mentioned, inside the same order we actually got our output. Okay, it's a very simple method, not a very difficult method, and it does not have that much applications. It has sometimes, it comes very handy, but not that much. But it might be asked in interviews. That's why I taught you concat. But what are the few methods that are very important, which you will use later on in your web development too much? Let's understand such methods over there. Okay, let's understand the first method, which is called slice. Now, from here, the discussion is going to be very important. Every single method is going to be very important, very crucial, and there is definitely going to be a new thing that you are going to learn. Whether we talk about push pop, you can ignore them. You don't have to remember them. You can automatically understand what they are there for. But from now on, whatever methods we will discuss, they are going to be important methods. Okay. Honestly speaking, I can see 24 students over here, and that's not a good number. Like 60 people have voted that they will join the class, and unfortunately I can see 24 students here out of 400. That's not even 10% of students. That's 5% of students have joined the class. Okay, which is unfortunate, very much unfortunate. But I think we can take some harsh decisions related to this, right? Let me think of something and let's see what we can do. Okay, let's go over here and let's try to understand now very important methods. Let's suppose I have an array, and this array contains some random elements over there. Okay, something like this. And what I want to do is I simply want to create some slices of this. When we say slices, what do we actually mean by that? I simply want to create sub arrays out of this particular array. I want to create more arrays. I don't want to affect the original array. Original array should be as it is. But I want to implement an operation with the help of which I can create a slice of this. Now, slice means a piece of it, a sub array of it. In order to create a piece of it, what we can do is we can use a method called as slice method. So I will simply go write arr.slice. Now, when we say arr.slice, what does it actually mean? It means I definitely want here that from my original array ARR, I simply want to create a slice of it. But when we say slice, don't you think we have to tell it what exactly, from which index to up till what index the slice we want? So it receives two arguments. Slice method receives two arguments over there. Number one is start index, number two is end index. Let's suppose over there I will simply go write 2 comma 5. As I said, slice method receives two arguments. Number one is from which you want your slice to begin from the original array. Give index of that. So this is start index. And this is up till what index the slice should be created. But remember, two index in this case, the first starting index will be included in the slice, but the end index that I have mentioned, it will not be included inside this slice that we are trying to create. So according to this two indexes over there, this is having two index, three index, four index, five index. But as I said, fifth index, the last index that I have mentioned over there, it will be excluded. So if I try to console.log my ARR2 over here, and if I try to print the output, you can clearly see we have created a slice from our original array, a sub array over there. So if anyone asks you, hey, this is an array, I want you to create a sub array out of it. What's the method that we will use? We will use slice method. But the question that might be asked over here is, does slice method update my original array? Does it mean once we create slice of it, those elements will be removed from the original array? Let's try to figure out that. So I will print the original array over here. And if I try to execute, then you can clearly see there is no updation in my original array. So slice method will only affect the only create return a new array. It is not going to affect the original array. I hope that makes sense. Am I clear with slice method? Yes or no? I hope I'm clear. Now, another thing. When we talk about slice method, it's not necessary I will actually put both arguments. What will happen if I simply try to, let's suppose, copy this and let me try to comment and paste it here? What if I will put only one argument over here? I will not put two arguments. In that particular case, it will start from this index and it is going to take rest of all elements until end and give you a slice of it, which means it will create a new array out of it, starting from this index up till end. And if I try to execute it over here, you can clearly see from second index 4 up till end, all of the elements are returned in a new array that we have. I hope I am clear. Now I have a simple question to all of you. I want to create an array, sub array out of it that will include these many elements. What is it that I'm going to write as indexing, as arguments to slice method that I have? Quickly, guys, what are the indexing that I'm going to pass over there? I want to return 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7. So tell me what are the arguments that I'm going to pass over here to this. So Sagar says 2 comma 7. So let me pass 2 comma 7. Very good. So if I pass 2 comma 7 over there, try to execute this, you can clearly see these are the elements that we have actually passed, right? Although the answer is 1 comma 7, right? Because I was trying to what is this called, include 3 as well. So that's why the indexing is going to be from 1 to 7, not 2 to 7, right? So if I try to execute it now, 3 is also included. Remember, starting index is included, the last index is not included in it. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Done. Moving forward, so I hope this slice method is also done. Let's move to one another method over there. And this is the most important method when we try to understand bringing changes in the original array. Remember, push method makes change at the last of the array, right? Pop method makes change at the last of the array. Shift at the first index, zeroth index. Unshift at the zeroth index. But don't you think sometimes our requirement might be we would want to make a change at any index, whether we talk about at the beginning, whether we talk about at the middle, whether we talk about at the end. Anywhere change might be demanding. In that particular case, we have a method called as splice method. The method that we actually use is splice method. Let's try to understand what splice method is. And this is like one of the best methods that you can actually remember. Until now, whatever we have learned, everything can be done with the help of this method on arrays in JavaScript. So let's suppose I have an array over there where ARR is equals to, I will simply go create an array, some random array like this, and it contains lot of the elements. Now I will simply go create an array over here. And on this array, I'm going to use a method called as splice. Okay. Now it receives few of the arguments. Now what are those arguments? Number one element is number one argument over here is the start index. But what does splice actually do? Splice does everything. You want to insert any elements anywhere, splice is the method. You want to delete any element anywhere, splice is the method. Whatever you want to do with respect to your array, splice is the method that we are actually going to use. So over here, what I am going to do is I'm simply going to put some arguments to understand what it actually is and how it works. I'm going to put only two numbers over here, 2 comma 3. Let's understand what it actually means. If I go over here and if I try to understand my console.log, my ARR2, let's understand what this splice method is going to return, at least at this point of time. Because when we say ARR2 console, I am calling this method in this variable. Let's try to understand what it's going to return. And if I try to execute it, you can clearly see there are three elements inside it. So what does that mean? That means I am simply wanting to create a slice of it. Yes, sir, I can create a slice with splice as well. Then what is happening over here? And what is 2 comma 3 mean? And what will it do with the original array? If I go to the original array, is there any change? Let's try to see that. If I execute it over here, you can clearly see my original array is updated. So let's understand splice, what splice does. As of now, I have passed only two arguments, 2 comma 3. Okay, 2 comma 3. When we say the first argument over there, it is a starting index. Where from this array should start splicing. So you can clearly see in the first array as well, 4. What is 4? 4 is starting index. Then the second argument is not the index, but it is count. How many we want to delete. So it simply means on the original array, use the splice method, start at the index 2 and delete 3 elements. And that's what you can clearly see on the original array. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are deleted. So from starting index 2, please remove 3 elements, which is 4, 5, 6. And then over here, return those 3 elements to me. And that's what it has actually returned. So what is the purpose of our supplies method? Supplies method, at this point of time, we simply, if our intention and requirement is to change the content of an array by removing the elements at any index, we use supplies method. But it also returns the array of those removed element from the original array. I hope that makes sense. So if I go over here, you guys tell me quickly in the chat. If I go write 1 comma 1, what will it do? 1 comma 1, is it a valid syntax? Quickly. Is it a valid syntax? Quickly. Is it a valid syntax? Quickly. 1 comma 1. And what does it actually mean? And if I try to print ARR2, what is going to print? From starting to, Ankit, do you think that this 3 element has index 2 or index 1? Why would you write that? This has the index 2, index 0, index 1, index 2, right? What does 1 comma 1 mean? 1 comma 1 mean at index 1 remove that element and return it in an array. That is why if I try to go over here and execute this code, you will get an array over there with only one element, that is 3. So 1 comma 1 mean 3 will be deleted from my original array. But of course, inside this new array, that 3 will be stored in an array. So if I simply now try to print my original array over there, and if I execute it, you can clearly see from my original array at the index 1, that element is removed. So can I say one thing here? Can I say one thing? When we talk about supplies method, that supplies method actually does two things. It allows me to create a slice as well. Not only that, it updates my original array as well. It updates my original array as well. Yes or no? Yes or no? Right? It updates my original array as well. Right? Right? That's what it does. Fantastic method here. Now, this is what I want. I want to create a slice of this 789. I want to create slice of 789, which automatically means 789 will be removed from the original array. So, what is the arguments that I'm going to pass inside supplies? Simple question. What are the arguments that I'm going to pass inside this supplies? Today probably will be the last class of this entire course. Probably. We won't continue the course, unfortunately. But answer me this first. If I want to create a slice of 789, what are the arguments that I'm going to pass? Govind says 4,8. Pratime says 5,7. Anyone else? Let's understand one thing here. As I said, the second argument is not index. It is how many you are going to remove. It is a count. Whether 3 elements you want to remove, 5 elements you want to remove, 10 elements you want to remove or return. It is not index. So it's not going to be 4,8 or 5,7. No. Because when we say, if I write, let's suppose I will write 5,7. What does 5,7 actually mean? 5 comma 7 means at index 5 remove 7 element from my original array and return me those 7 elements. Is this what we want? We just wanted to remove 3 elements and return them. So it's going to be at index 5, please remove 3 elements from the original array and return those 3 elements in a new array that we have created here. So that's why if I go and execute it, you can clearly see now 789 is elements that it have returned, and then you can clearly see it has updated my original array as well. Right? Am I clear? Am I clear? Now, there is one another very important updation that we have in supplies. Supplies is not just a method with help of which you can remove any element anywhere. No. But with help of this, you can also insert any element anywhere. Let's suppose over here, inside this particular thing, I want to remove 3, 4, 5, and I want to add A, B, C there. So in order to do that, I will pass first of all this at index 1, please remove 3 elements. Then you can pass after that the elements you want to insert over here at index 1. How many elements you want, it's completely up to you. So let me pass A, B over here and C. So A, B, and C. And in this case, if I try to execute this code, you can clearly see. Let me, sorry, what happened? I closed my VS Code, right? Give me a second, give me a second, give me a second. Let me try to open it again. Okay, look at this, look at this. Now over here we can see that at index 1, I am simply telling it to remove 3 elements. But if I pass these 3 arguments there, it also means add these 3 elements there. So if I simply go here and try to go and execute this code, you can clearly see at index 1 it has removed 3 elements, but it has also inserted these 3 elements. So that's why I said supplies does everything. Whether you want to delete the elements, whether you want to insert any elements anywhere, you can do that with a single method called as supplies. Can I pass? Is it like I am removing 3 elements? That's why I am adding 3 elements over there. No. If I want, I can simply remove 3 elements and add only 1 element there. I can do that as well. It's completely up to my requirement. If I go in this case and try to execute it, you can clearly see 3 elements are removed and 1 element is inserted. Right? But what does it return in this case? If I try to console my ARR2 over here, and in this case, if I try to execute, you remember it will always return an array of removed elements only. Even though you added an element, it is not going to be part of the original array that it returns. Sorry, not original array, but the array it returns. It will always return, always 100% time, the removed elements only. Now, I have a simple question to ask you. I don't want to remove any element. I simply want between 5 and 6, I want to insert my name. Simple as that. Tell me in the chat, how should I write supplies? Come on, guys. I don't want to insert any, remove any element. I want to insert an element over there, a bunch of elements. What am I going to do? Simple, simple, very simple. The second argument represents how many you want to remove. How many do we want to remove? 0. So 1 comma 0. At index 1, I don't want to remove any, but I want to insert A. Similarly, between 5 and 6, it automatically means at index 4. I do not want to remove any element. I want to remove 0 elements. But I want to add over there my name, which is Adfar over here. In this case, if I try to execute, you can clearly see it returns an array with empty because it does not return any element. But if I try to console over there this, and in this case, if I execute it, you can clearly see between 5 and 6, there's Adfar now. So at index 4, please add an element over there. And that's what I am doing. At index 4, this is 3 index, this is 4 index. So at index 4, please add Adfar. I hope supplies is completely clear. Am I clear with supplies? And what will happen if I only pass one argument over here, which is index only? If I do not pass rest of the arguments over there, if I pass only one argument, in that particular case, at index 4, remove all of the elements after that. From index 4, remove all of the elements. And you can clearly see from index 4, it has removed all of the elements and returned them in an array. And original array is also updated. So it will remove till end. But I hope with this, you have understood supplies properly. Am I clear, guys? Do we all understand what supplies method is? Give me a quick confirmation in the chat. Make sure you like this video right now. Done. Very good. Very good. Supplies is clear. Let me create one another file here with the name of arrays main methods.js. Okay. Until now, whatever methods we actually implemented, they were there to bring changes in the original array, most of them at least. But now the methods that we are going to do, they are called, or which we are going to discuss, they are called looping methods. What do we mean by looping methods? We will understand that in a second. Let's suppose I have an array. Okay. ARR is equals to an array 1, 2, 3, 4. And what I want to do is I simply want to implement some logic on this array. Okay. Simply want to implement some logic on this array. I somehow, my requirement is very simple and very crisp here. I have a function, any function, and I want that function to be executed on every single element. For example, I want to, let's suppose, print 1, 2, 3, 4, but using a function. How can I do that? I can simply go implement a for loop. I will say let my I is equals to 0, and then I should be less than my ARR dot length like this, right? And then I plus plus like this. Done. In which I'm simply going to print console.log ARR of I, right? So please, when this loop is going to be started, at that point of time, I is going to be 0. So please loop with I 0 and then increment it until AR dot length reaches the condition is satisfied at that point of time. Until then, please print console.log ARR I. So of course, in this case, if I try to execute it, you can clearly see it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So what's happening over here? Over here, I, as a developer, am giving it a range of loop from I0 to ARR dot length. So if I don't let it know from my side where from you have to start, where you have to end, it is not going to actually implement any operation there. But there are some solutions to it. There are some loops. Once you implement them on array, they on their own know I have to loop based on the length of an array. And then whatever that method does, it depends on the method itself. But they already know I have to start from the index 0 up till end. So we do not let them know their range, but they automatically know. The first method in this case we are going to discuss over here is called for each loop. A very simple method, not used that much, but it's a very important method as well. I will simply tell on my ARR, the original array that I have, please implement for each. What does for each actually mean over here? So for each over here is a looping method that we can use on array. And its intention is only one thing, to execute the callback function that we are passing over here as an argument on every single element that we have inside an array. So you can clearly see for each is a function and I am passing an argument here. And if this argument is a function, what is this function called? Whenever you pass any function as an argument to another function, what is that function called? Quickly. What is that function called? If a function is receive an argument and that argument itself is an argument, the argumented function is called a callback function. So that's why I said whenever we talk about for each, it simply will receive one argument over there called as callback function. Now whatever I will do inside this callback function, for each will execute that callback function on every individual array element that we have. So what it's going to do is it's going to take one over here and execute this callback function on one. Then it is going to take two over here, execute this callback function on two, and then similarly on 3, 4, depending on the length. But it receives two arguments. Whenever we talk about callback function, whenever we talk about this for each, the callback function, it receives an argument, it receives two in turn more arguments. Number one is item. Let's try to understand what this item is. And what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to say console.log my item here. And let's see what it prints at this point of time. If I execute it, you can clearly see the argument that we actually pass inside the callback function is 1, 2, 3, 4. And how many times it prints it? 4 times. So can we say this loop automatically execute itself on array depending on the length, because there are 4 elements and you can clearly see those 4 elements. Where the argument inside this callback function represents the elements individually. So when this loop will be running first time At that point of time, item will be item, the first element. Second loop, item will be second, and third loop, item will be third element, so on and so forth. Now, what can we do over here? I can simply tell it, hey, do one thing. In this case, please console.log my item into two. Right? I can do something like this. And if I execute it, you can clearly see it's 2468. So if we have to simply understand this logic here, this is how it actually executes it. So we have our array elements, whatever our array elements are. Okay, whatever our elements are. So let's suppose it's 2, 4, 8, 10, 12. Then on this, if I implement for each loop, inside this for each loop, it will have callback function. Okay, like this. Now, whatever I will do inside this callback function will be executed. This whole callback function will be executed on my array elements one by one. So it means it will loop how many times based on the length of an array. In the first loop, it's going to loop around 2 executed, which means it will make item is equals to 2. So when the first loop is executed, item becomes 2. When the second loop is executed, item becomes 4. Third loop, item becomes 8. Fourth loop, item becomes 10. Fifth loop, item becomes 12. Right? I hope this makes sense. How for each loop, and this is a predefined, so it knows I have to start from the zero index up till the length of an array that we have. Now, what is the second argument that actually this for each loop receives? That is index over there. And let's try to print the index as well. So if I try to print my index, and let's see what it's going to print over in the output. So if I execute it, you can clearly see over there. 2 element has 0 index, 4 element 1 index. So indexing is nothing but the element it received inside the loop. Let me try to remove this, and I will simply put index here instead of there, because you might get confused over here. So let me remove it, let me print. So do you see when this loop actually started in the first iteration, it made item is equals to 1, and it made index 0 because 0 is the index of 1. Second loop, item became 2, index became 1, because that's how the array has the values, right? So the whole agenda of using for each loop is to implement a loop on your array. Then whatever your requirement is, you can actually do that. For example, I simply want to make sure that it is going to add all of the numbers inside the array together and give me the result. So 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 3 is 6, 6 plus 4 is 10. I want 10 in the output. That's what my requirement is. Over here, if I have to do it in my normal imperative design, this is how I will implement it. Okay. I will go here and I will simply define, maybe let's suppose a variable called as sum is equals to 0. And then instead of consoling over there, I will simply tell it sum plus equals to my ARR at the index I. Done. And if I then go over it, console.log my sum, you can clearly see as soon as I execute it, it will print 10 in the output. I hope this you already know how sum is working. Do I have to explain that? How it got 10 here? What this program is about? Yes or no? I will talk about that Basu as well. Guys, do we know how 10 got in the output? Because I initialize sum with 0, then sum plus equals to ARR of I. So in the first iteration, 0 plus 1 becomes 1, sum is 1. Then 1 plus 2, 3, sum becomes 3. 3 plus 3, sum becomes 6. 6 plus 4, sum becomes 10. I hope you can figure out that on your own. Now, this is imperative approach. How can we how can we solve the same problem with help of our for each loop? So I know in my for each loop, I don't have to write ARR of I, but every single element is inside my item over there. So I will simply go tell it sum plus equals to item. Simple as that. Simple as that. And then I'm simply going to go over here, console.log what my sum is. So if I try to execute, you can clearly see it is still 10. So this is simply like, instead of creating your loop like this, then accessing every single value with the index that you have initialized, it's better to implement for each loop and you will get your item that you have. I hope for each loop makes sense. Give me a quick confirmation in the chat. Am I clear? Am I clear? Yes or no? Am I clear? Am I clear, everyone? Then we understand what for each loop does, how it works. Now, some of you might be confused about one very important point, which is that is it really necessary that the word that I have used over the string, it has to be item only, it has to be index only? No. It can be x comma y, it can be p comma q, it can be adfer comma variable verse, it can be anything. There's only one thing that you need to remember: the first variable over there represents item, second variable represents index. Now I can also go and write something like this. Let me try to comment this over here. Let me try to implement my for each loop on the same array over here. So let me simply go create for each loop arr dot my for each. And on this for each, I know it's going to receive a function as an argument, a callback function like this, like this, like this, like this. Where I know it's going to print receive two arguments. So I can have x comma I as well, in which if I try to console.log my x comma I, you can clearly see even in this case as well, it's going to execute itself and you can see the resultant output. But Basu asked a very important question. Sometimes, sir, we see it like this underscore comma I. What does this underscore actually mean? Right? And sometimes you might have seen that in your web development in different projects over there, maybe not. But if you have ever seen it, this is what it means: that when I want you to implement for each over here, the logic that I would write inside my callback function depends on the index, not on item. So I know item variable is not going to be used on this particular for each loop in this anywhere inside this callback function. So I can write x over here, but in that case, x becomes an entity. So you can write x anywhere, it will be treated as item over here. But what you want is you simply want to omit it. You simply want, okay, I am looking for index only. The logic that I'm going to write inside this whole function is on I. So you simply write underscore. It means whatever it is, leave it. I don't care about the first argument. It does not mean anything to me because I do not care about the first argument. I care about second argument. So that's why we write underscore. Underscore means I do not care about this. So, but we cannot reach to I without writing the first argument. So I only makes sense if it is second argument. Index only makes sense if it is second argument. So whenever you see such case over there, we can simply write underscore comma I. Now, if someone as Basur wrote in the chat, what if I will write I only? In that case, what is I going to represent? Will it be index? Will it be index? No. It will be my item. It will be my item. Simple as that. If there's only one argument, it will be treated as item. But I wanted to write my logic based on the index. Maybe I wanted to simply print I into 2. This is the logic that I actually wanted to perform inside this for each loop based on the index only. But can I reach to index without writing the first argument? No. But I want to omit that. I don't want to give it an identifier. I don't want to give it an identifier. I simply want to omit it so that I can directly reach to I and implement I in my code. So in that particular case, we put underscore in such cases where first argument can be omitted. We are looking for second argument's logic. I hope that makes sense. So even in this case, if I try to execute, you can clearly see it properly works. It multiplies every index of this array with 2. That's why it's 0, 2, 4, 6. Done? Very good. Moving forward. Now, as I said, for each loop is a for. Simply when we try to implement for, like this is for each loop. Simple as that. But on the other hand, what does this for each return? That is something that might be asked in the interview. If I'm an interviewer, I will ask you, what does for each return? Always remember, for each method itself returns undefined, which means it will not return an array, it will not return a value, it will always return undefined. If I put it in a variable called as x like this, and if I try to console.log my x, and then if I try to execute my x over here, you can clearly see it prints undefined. So whatever you do over here, it is not like it's going to put it in a new array and return it. No, for each always returns undefined. So for each is not there to create a new array out of the original array. For each is there to just make your looping technique on your array very simple. So instead of thinking about let I is equals 0, I should be less than ARR dot length I plus plus. Instead of thinking that, directly implement for each. You receive item and item, index of the item inside index argument, and you implement your logic. But the method itself returns undefined. Am I clear? Am I clear? I hope I am completely clear. Now, similar to for each loop, we have one another looping method. As I said, the whole discussion that we are going to do now, they all will depend on looping methods now. There are a lot of looping methods which we have to understand. What is the other method? Similar to for each 2, but there's only one change, which is whatever for each is going to do, same thing will be done by that method as well. But it is going to return a new array of the modified elements that we have, which means we have to return something. So that brings me to one another very important method. Sorry. That brings me to one of the very important methods used everywhere. You don't use for each that much, trust me. But if I talk about arrays later on, once we implement all of these arrays and everything in web development, you will see this method used at least in 95% times. And the method is called map method. Let's try to understand what map is. So I simply want to create let my ARR is equals to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And what I want to do is I simply want to perform an operation. Any operation, whatever it is, with help of which I will be able to create a new array. And that new array should be, let's suppose it is 3 square is 9, 4 square is 16, 5 square is 25, 6 square is 36, 7 square is 49, and 8 square is 64. So somehow I want to implement an operation on this array, and it should simply return this particular thing in the output. So how can I actually do that? Let's try to understand it using normal methodology, using normal for loop. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to go over here, start my loop with 0, and then I'm simply going to say ARR dot length, because that's how this array loop is going to run, and then I plus plus. And over here I'm going to create one another array over there called as let my ARR2, and I'm going to keep it undefined. In this for each loop, I'm simply going to go over there and tell it over here, do one thing. On my ARR2, please push element. What is the element it's going to push? My ARR at the index I into ARR at the index I. And then I'm simply going to go over here, console.log my ARR2. Do you think this is a valid approach? Do you think it's going to work? It's going to make sure the original array that I have every single time, it's going to multiply that 3 into 3, 4 into 4, 5 into 5, and similarly going to create a new array over here. So let's create it an empty array here. Is this a valid approach? So let's try to see. So if I go over here and execute this particular code, you can clearly see we got 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64. Because it's a very simple approach, properly will work as well. Right? And it worked. But in order to solve this, what is it that we actually, what were our requirements? Our requirements were very clear. Which were, I have to create a new array, which means I wanted to implement an operation on my web applications array that should simply return create a new array. So I had to create an array first of all. Second thing, on every single element, I have to multiply the element with itself and return and put it in the array, which means I had to start a loop, which means I have to tell it start with I is equal to 0, stop at AR dot length, and then I plus plus. But I can do the same thing over there by just writing a single line of code. So what I can do is I can simply go use a method over there called as map. So let me simply go over here, and I will simply go here and implement a map method on this. So let me simply say let my ARR2 is equals to on my ARR, please implement a map. And this map also receives a callback function. Almost every looping method receives a callback function, which is going to be receiving two more arguments in turn called as item comma index, like this. item comma index. Now, if I simply go here and try to print this console.log item comma index, you will clearly see we will get our values in item. We will get index of that item in index variable. So you can see 30415263748 depending on what my original array was. But is this what we want? No. As I said, that map method is going to return a new array. When we say it is going to return a new array, it automatically means I have to return over here something. Now, what am I going to return? According to my requirement, we have to multiply item with itself. So I will simply say item into item. But how does it actually work? As I said, map is a looping method. It is one of the most easiest but most important method as well. It's a looping method. And what do we mean by looping method? That already it knows where from I have to start my loop and where, at what time, at what place I have to end my loop. So it will simply, in the first iteration, in the first loop, it will take the 3, place it in item, take the index of 3, place it in index in the second loop, and then it will perform the operation. Since arr2 is an array, because this method returns an array, so it is simply going to put this item into item. Since item is 3, 3 into 3 is 9, it is going to put in arr2. So arr2 is equals to, and then the array will be depending on what my map's return logic is. So that's why if I now go here, console.log my arr2, and then if I try to execute it, you can clearly see this how it is going to be. So map method is a very simple method. Very simple method. It receives a callback function. In the item, individually, those items will be placed. In the index, the indexes of those elements will be placed. Then whatever you will return, that return is going to be placed one by one inside the array that you are trying to create out of the map. One by one, those places, those values will be placed. Let's try to understand it using pen over here. Okay. So I know ARR2 is an array, right? Like this. It's an empty array initially. Then map is starting on the ARR. First loop will be done on this. So 3 will be placed in item. So item will be 3. Index I'm not using, so let's not talk about index, but index will be 0. Then I'm telling you to return item into item. And we know functions return. Where is it going to return? It's going to return in ARR2. So item into item, 3 into 3 is equals 9. So in my ARR2, the item will be placed in 9. Now, arr.length has not completed, so it's going to go over here and start another iteration. Item becomes 4. Return item into item. 4 into 4, 16 gets pushed over here. Third iteration, 5 into 5, 25. 6 into 6, 36. 49, 64. And once it reaches over here, now map knows there's no element to actually iterate over, loop over. So it's going to stop this, and you can clearly see you got the array that you actually wanted. Right now, my Manmohan is asking a very simple question here. I don't want to store it in an array. Will it bring any change? We have to understand the most important point over here, which we have already discussed earlier as well, whether this method implements the original array or updates the original array or not. If I simply go console.log my ARR, you won't see any change there. The original array is as is. So I don't see any change in the original. So you have to create a new array out of it, because the method is there to create a new array out of it. It returns a new array. So the purpose is very simple. It always will return. Return statement is fixed. Every method has return statement fixed. Like push has updated length, it's fixed. Pop has the last element, it is fixed. Similarly, when we talk about map will always return a new array of the modified elements, the modification that you have done. So it simply means this callback function will be executed on every single element one by one. Now, whatever that method is going to return, it will be pushed on my new array one by one. So purpose, let me repeat again, purpose is it will create a new array with the results of calling a provided function on every element in the calling array. In the calling array. Then what does it return? It returns new array of modified elements. I hope that makes sense. But I have a simple question. If you understand what this method is going to do, what will happen if I do something like this? If I'm going to do something like this, return item greater than 4, we have to the intention is to create a new area out of it, Manmohan, right? So we will try to create a new area out always. So if I do something like this, and if I try to console my ARR2, what will be the output of this code? What will be the output of this code? Will it be 5, 6, 7, 8, or will it be anything else? 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else? Remember one point. This is the most crucial point about map. Whenever you implement map on any array, the array it is going to create will have exactly the same length. So if the array over there has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements, the new array that map method is going to create will also have the same length. It will also have 6 elements. So what does return item greater than 4 means? It means that on the origin array, check which element satisfies this condition. And whenever we say satisfies this condition, it means it's either going to be true or false. So in this case, if I try to execute it, you can clearly see it's false, false, true, 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 true. So length is not going to be increased, not decreased whenever we talk about map. Map is always going to return a new array with the same length that we have. Am I clear? Am I clear? Do you understand why there's false, false, true, 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 true? Because I am simply letting it know, and understand this very important point here. Let's try to debug this code. Although there's no bug, so let's try to understand this code. We know that map is going to start a first loop, and item will be created in which 3 will be placed. ARR2 is an empty array here. Now return item is greater than 3. Is 3 greater than 4? Is 3 greater than 4? No, it's not. So it automatically means the output of this will be false. So this function is returning false. So of course, over a false will be created. And don't we know that array can contain true, falses as values inside the array as well? The elements can be boolean values as well, of course. So that's why it's false, false, true, 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 because these 4 satisfy this particular thing for their respective items. These 2 do not. I hope this makes sense. Am I clear with map? Am I clear with map? Do we understand map properly? Yes or no? So there are 3 points that you need to remember. Purpose of the map is simple. It allows us to create a new array with the results of calling the provided function on every element in the calling array. Second thing is it returns new array of the modified element. It will return new array. Third thing is the new array that is going to be created. It will always have same length with the original array. Length is not going to be manipulated. Neither it's going to be increased nor it's going to be decreased ever. Right? I hope that makes sense. So with this, we have completed this method as well. And since see, in this particular code, we are not using index. So you can ignore this index as well. You can only put one argument called as index, item. But if you have any implementation of index, maybe instead of writing item greater than 4, I will simply say item into 10 multiplied by index. Maybe this is what I want to create. If in this case index is being used in return statement, you can simply go and execute it like this, and it will properly give you the output. Now also one very important point, you can see map here, and it is returning only one element. If it is returning only one element, don't you think we can also write it like this? Let my ARR2 is equals to ARR dot map, and then over here, please go implement index, and then please return index, sorry, not index, item. So please go and return item, in which you are simply going to return what item into item, right? Yes or no? Yes or no? Don't you think we can also write whenever our fat arrow function only returns one statement. If it returns only one statement in that particular case, we don't have to write that curly brace, we don't have to write return keyword. And this is what we have already seen. Am I clear? Am I clear, guys? Yes or no? If you have only one return statement, you can do it like this. Completely valid. And that is what we have learned in our fat arrow function discussion as well. That fat arrow function reduces the effort whenever we have only one return statement in our function. So you can do something like this as well. So in this, if I try to console.log and if I try to print my ARR3, and then if I try to execute it, you can clearly see I have this particular code. Then it worked properly. So I hope we are clear with map. Make sure you are taking notes properly. Notes is very important. Notes are very mandatory because these methods you have to understand, you have to remember कि कौन सा method hai. If you do not remember that, then there's going to be a problem. Okay? Do we have any questions? Shall we take a break of 10 minutes? Shall we take a break of 10 minutes? So let's take a break of 10 minutes. Exact at 11:12, we are going to start, and there are a lot of other methods that we have to discuss. And somehow we have to understand what needs to be done with this batch. Shall we continue or not? We have to discuss that. And number this 29 number 30 number even there were in first half an hour there were only 19 students in the class. That's absolutely not acceptable. So probably we have to take some harsh decision. So I don't want to be this as last class because I think uh, we are discussing everything in too detail. Okay, and we are giving this content properly to everyone. Trust me, you will not find such detailed content anywhere. You will find there are a lot of people who are going to teach you much better than this, much detailed than this, but they all will be paid. You would have to pay lakhs of rupees there. But if we want something like this here to continue, then 19, 25 students, 23 students, that's not how this is going to move forward. Okay, so let's see what we can do. Either I will leave that group today, WhatsApp group 400 students. We will create a separate group of only 30 students. Those 30 students who are active in the class, we will create group of that, and we will see how we can take our classes. Okay, let's think of that. So we'll take a break of 10 minutes, and exactly at 11:12 we are going to resume our session. Okay, see you guys, but do not leave the class now. Stay here. We will take our 10 minutes break and we will see what we can do. Okay, exactly at 11:13 we're going to resume. Hey guys, hi everyone, welcome back. I hope I'm audible as well as visible. Am I? Hi guys, hi everyone. Am I audible? Perfect. I guess I should be right. Great. Okay. Now we have understood few of the very basic. It's okay, Adarsh. We have understood very basic methods over there related to our arrays, and there are a lot of other methods that we have to discuss. When we talk about this map, there's one thing that we have to understand. It creates a new array with the same length over there. But what if our intention is not that? What if we actually want to implement a filter? By filter, I mean if I write over the item greater than 4, then only create an array with the items, not the actual true false. What can I do in that case? If you ever have a requirement of doing such thing inside your arrays in which you want to implement on an array, create a new array with a filter, the method that we actually use in that case is filter itself. It's also a looping method. Let me create a simple array. Let's suppose arr is equals to an array, and let me simply go write 2 commas whatever the elements are, right? Whatever the elements are, something like this. Done. And on this array, I will use a simple method. Let my arr2 is equals to, on my original array, please implement a filter like this. Now, when we implement filter over there, remember it's exactly map. Filter is also map. But there's only one change. A new array will be returned with the filtered elements that we have. Okay, a new array will be created with the filter array. It also receives the same callback function as an argument over here. We also can go over here, put an item comma index like this, and then over there whatever we will return. So let's suppose I will simply go return. Now over here we have to implement a filter, and when we say filter, what does that mean? That means a condition. Like, for example, if I simply tell it, hey, from the original array that I have, I simply want to create a filter. When we say filter, it either means greater than this, less than this, that satisfies a particular condition. That's why, let's suppose I will give a very simple condition called as give me elements that are greater than 30. And in this case, if I go and simply console.log my ARR2, and in this case, if I execute my code, you can clearly see now the filtered array is actually returned. All the elements that actually satisfy the condition are returned. So what's the difference between map and filter? Map and filter syntax wise is same, everything is same, but the only difference that we can actually observe here is that the array that is being returned is filtered array over here. So length can decrease here in this case, but in map that is not the case. What will happen if I somehow simply do something like this? Item into item. What will it do in this case? I'm not putting a condition here. I know in condition how my filter method is going to behave, how it is going to work. But in this case, right now, if I implement item into item, in that case, if I try to execute over here, you can clearly see it actually gives me the same array that we have. Same array that we have. It is not giving me anything else. Same array. So item into item. Not square, not square. Do you think it's giving me square of the array? No. Because filter expects you to put a condition. So filter method expects you to put a condition over there. That's why we should write always condition. I can write wherever my index is greater than item. If I do something like this, of course, in this case, it's going to work. In that case, I only get 4 because index of 4 is greater than the item itself. Right? Map method, filter method, they do not affect the original array. Looping methods do not affect the original array, Ankit. Remember that. Whether we talk about map, whether we talk about filter, or whether we talk about anything else, they do not affect your original array. All the looping methods, all, almost all, they do not affect. So if I try to print over there the original array, you can clearly see as soon as I go over here and try to execute this array, I can see the original array is unaffected. There's no change in the original array. Remember that. Okay. Moving forward, I hope filter is also clear, right? We don't have any questions with filter. Filter is one of the most simplest and easiest. And even the name itself says what I am about to do. right? So what is the purpose? There are always three things that we are going to discuss, although two things, but three things here. Purpose is to create a new array with all elements of the original array that pass the test over there implemented by the provided function. So the provided function that we have, its whole agenda, its whole implementation is to put the test on my original array. Now whoever satisfies that test, a new array will be created. Now what does it return? It returns a new array with the filtered elements. So these are the two things. Third thing, will it always give me the same length array? No, it can reduce the length of an array as well. I hope this filter method is also clear. Do we have any questions? Do we have any questions? Yes or no? Until now, I don't think so. Let's move forward. One another very important method, then I will create a new file that's called reduce. What does reduce itself, reduce keyword mean? Reduce keyword mean that there is something and we simply want to reduce it to something. Reduce it to something. Let's suppose I have an array. Let my ARR is equals to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever the array is. If ever in your coding, if ever you have a requirement where you want to reduce the array into a single value, if you ever have such a requirement where whatever array you have, you want to reduce it to a single value, in that particular case, the method that we use is reduce method. So now the agenda is not to create a new array. The agenda is not to filter a new array. No. The agenda is somehow I want to implement an operation over there and I want to accumulate an array to a single value and reduce it to a single value. If you have any such requirement in your coding, the method that we actually use is reduce method. What can be such requirements? Let's suppose one of the requirement is that I have an array. I simply want to see what is the addition of all of those elements and return that. Now, when we say return, I don't mean it return in an array. I simply want return the result of it. I have an array. Tell me what is the multiplication of all those numbers when multiplied. 2 multiplied by 3, multiplied by 4, multiplied by 5, multiplied by 6, multiplied by 7, multiplied by 8. And we know the result is going to be accumulated into a singular value that we have. So some multiplication, arithmetic operations, whenever we talk about such thing, we want to accumulate it to a single value. In that case, we have it like this. Now, in this case, I will simply pass a proper syntax over here like this. Okay, let's see how it works. Right now, there is one another argument that my internal callback function receives. Until now, we can see item, we can see index. But before that, inside my reduce callback function, there is one extra argument that we have actually placed here. Now, when we say there is extra argument over here, what does that actually mean? And what will it actually do? This ACC, instead of saying accumulator over here, since it was a suggestion, I will write total to give you an idea. This total is the single value it's going to actually return. So when we say, although it's not an ARR2, it's simply over here, I will simply say it is X, let's suppose. Let X is equals to, because reduce function will not return an array, it will return the accumulated, the result of the function that we have. Let's understand what this total actually is. And we all know what item and index is. So item will be simply in first loop, it will be 2, in second loop, it will be 3, in third loop, it will be 4, in fifth, so on and so forth. And I will simply tell it return total plus item. Now, how does it actually work? How does it actually work? As of now, we don't know what total is. But if you want to pass a default value to it, remember, reduce apart from this callback function receives one another argument, which is value that we want to assign the default value to total. And when we say addition, what is the default value that we actually give to the addition initially? It is 0. So I have, apart from this callback function, I have passed one another argument 0, which means when this loop will start, the first value, the initialized value of total, I am setting it to 0. So that's what second argument and reduce function does. Second argument simply is the initial value that I am assigning to the total accumulator that we have, the total argument that we have. And I'm simply telling it return total plus item. Let's understand how it's going to work. I will have first loop starting from here. So item became 2. And initially, since I have passed total is equal to 0, so total is equal to 0, item became 2. And return total plus item. So 0 plus 2 is 2. Now, where will this 2 go? Will this 2 go over inside x variable? No, this 2 will be updated into total. So whatever it is going to reduce, unless and until whole loop is not completed, it is going to store the resultant of this particular operation expression into the total itself. So the second argument that I am actually giving over here is nothing but the default initialized value of the total when the loop starts. Am I clear? Am I clear? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Am I clear? Yes or no? So when we talk about reduce, the agenda and intention is very simple. We want to implement an operation on an array so that the whole array will be reduced to a single accumulated value, to single result. Now, when we say single result, we can perform addition, we can perform multiplication, or we can perform any other operation there, right? And it receives the callback function that reduce receives, it receives three arguments. Number one is total. Total means the reduced value that we have, final. That's what total is. If we don't want to use index, we can simply remove it. But it was just to give an idea. It receives three arguments. You can remove index if it's not used. Even if item is not used as well, you can remove item as well. But total is used, total can be there. Now listen to this very carefully. The total argument is what will be finally returned from this particular reduce function. And the second argument that I've passed to reduce function, can I say this is my first argument that's passed to the reduce, and this 0 is the second argument, right? We will talk about that, Ashu, in 2 minutes, right? So reduce function does not receive arguments like map and filter, but it receives two arguments. Number one is the callback function that will be executed on every single element one by one. Now, whatever this callback function is going to do, return, that value will be placed in total unless and until this whole loop is completed. So initially, what's going to happen? My total I have actually defined as 0. And then item over there in the first loop is 2. And what is return? It's returning 0 plus 2. Now, when it returns 0 plus 2, it means it returns 2. This 2 will be placed in total. So total is updated by 2. In the second loop, item becomes 3. So 2 plus 3 is 5. This 5 is placed in 5 total. Now total became 5. And then item becomes 4 over there. 4 plus 5 is 9. 9 is updated in total, so on and so forth, item. And that's how it performs the addition of every single element. But finally, when the last iteration is done, once item became 8 and whatever total at that point of time was, let's suppose it was 20. 20 plus 8 is 28. So it is going to make total 28 and return that total and place it in X. Okay, I hope you have understood the functionality, how it works over there, this reducer. Now 2 plus 3 is 5, 5 plus 4 is 9, 9 plus 5 is 14, 20, 27, and this is 35. So if I execute it, you can clearly see as soon as I go console.log my X, and if I execute this code, you will be particularly seeing 35 here because that's what the output is. Now, since the initial value was 0, what will happen if I make it 10? Tell me what will be the output of this code if I make it 10. Quickly, guys. Quickly, everyone. What will be the output of this code? Very good. It will be 45 because initially when the loop will start, total's default initialized value is 10. So 10 plus item, then whatever it is, and so on and so forth. Now, if I do not put this argument here, In that particular case, JavaScript is intelligent enough. Since addition is doing happening over here, it will automatically start total with zero. Default value of total in case of addition is zero. So in this case, if I try to execute it, you can clearly see it's 35. But if you want an initialized value, you can do that. But what if I will simply, instead of total plus this, I will put multiplication here. If I put multiplication over here, what does that mean? What does that mean? Does that mean the initial value of total is going to be zero? No, it cannot be. Because zero in that particular case, zero into anything is going to be zero, no matter what. But over here, JavaScript automatically knows it has to be one, and that's why it will multiply it with one. So initial value of total is one. So it depends on the operation over there. JavaScript knows reduce function is trained for such type of operations as well. But zero will be only when it is addition. That's why it's better to, instead of creating confusion, it's better to put one here, because we know in multiplication total's initial value should be one instead of zero. So if I try to execute, you can clearly see it's still same. But if I put 10 over there, so the same number now will be multiplied by 10. It means we will get 4,03,200 over here. And if I execute this, that's what the output is. Right? I hope. So that's how it works. I hope I'm completely clear. Am I clear, guys, until now? Do we understand reduce? Do we understand reduce? Yes or no? I guess we do, right? Moving forward. Now, let me talk about one another very important method. And that method was asked to me in an interview 3 days back. 3 days back, I sat in an interview and related to arrays. This was the question that was asked to me. Question was that you have an array. Sorry, let me try to comment this code here. The question was, although let me create a new file, so I will say right array arrays3.js. The question was very simple, and it was, let you have an array is equals to, it is 3, 7, 4, 9, 2, 6, 1, 2, 5, 6, something like this. Although let me create one digit only, 1. And what you are going to do is you are going to sort it. Sort means either in ascending order or descending order. How can we sort it? In order to sort it, we have a very simple method inside our JavaScript called as sort method. So I will simply go at arr.sort method like this. Now, when we say arr.sort, let me try to console my original array to see whether this method affects the original array or not. If I go over here, execute it, you can clearly see my array is sorted properly in the ascending order. Fantastic. And I told them that, okay, you have to use simply sort method and it will be sorted properly. Wonderful. But then they made a small change inside the array. They said that it's going to be, let's suppose, 2-digit numbers, 31, it's going to be 17, then it's going to be 24.44, it's going to be 100.5, or let's say negative 100.5, then it's going to be 250.5, something like this. Okay, so this is my array that I have over here, containing now multi-digit numbers instead of single-digit numbers. And in this case, if I try to execute, will it be sorted? Although they have a different array, but the idea was same. If I try to execute it, you can clearly see this is my array. Is it sorted? Simple as that. Do you think this is sorted? Yes or no? Looking at the array, tell me, is this array sorted array? What do you think? Is this array sorted array in the output? Is this array sorted? No, it's not. You can clearly see that 250 is mentioned first and then 31 and then 6. So it's not sorted. So when we say sort method without an argument over there is always going to sort digit wise only. This is what I actually mean. If you see -1 first digit, 1, then 2, then 2, then 2, then 3, then 6. So first digit is properly sorted. So it's going to sort it digit wise. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? It is not going to sort it magnitude wise, but digit wise. So you can see -1, the first digit is sorted everywhere properly. On the other case, it is 0, 1, 7, and then that's why makes mess over there. Because when we talk about with first digit, when it sorted 3 with 6, it did not actually took care of 31. It took care of 3 only, the first digit only. And with respect to first digit, pehla digit, it will always sort, no matter what. So how do we resolve that? There comes a proper syntax, a proper callback function as an argument. And that callback function inside a sort function is called a comparison function, comparator function. So this comparator function like this, like this, like this, like this, in which it is simply going to go with the receive two arguments, a comma b. What are these a comma b? These a comma b are any two elements from this array. A comma b are any two elements from this array. And then I will simply tell it return what? A minus b. As of now, I don't know what's happening over here, but let's try to execute to see what's happening. So if I execute over here, you can clearly see now my array is properly sorted. Do we all agree? You can see minus 101, 2, 6, 70, 24.4, 31, 256. It is not already sorted. How is it already sorted? Govin. It is not already sorted. Do you think 31 is greater than 17 or not? It's not already sorted. We have to sort it. And now we can clearly see it's sorted. Done. What is this particular function? Let's try to understand this. And you have to remember one very important point here. This function that I have passed, a comma b, like this, and I am going to simply return anything over there. Let's suppose a minus b in this case. And as I said, JavaScript in this a comma b will simply take any values over there. It's going to take any two random values. Like let's suppose in one case it will make a is equals to 31, b is equals to 17. In the second iteration, maybe it will make a is equals to 24.4, b is equals to minus 100.5. And it takes these a comma b tab tak until jab tak nahi sorted ho jaye, until it is properly sorted. But how does it sort? There's a mechanism that you have to remember. You don't have to understand it's working, because as I said, when sort method was created, all the logic is already written there. So when you call sort method, you simply are using a declarativeness here. You are simply using declarative approach here. So it simply means a comma b is any two numbers. And when we say return a minus b, let's take an example here. A is equals to 31, b is equals to 17. So a minus b, 31 minus 17, what is the output? 14. In a similar case, maybe I will write simply minus 100 as a, and then it's going to be 250. So minus 100.5 minus 250 is equals to minus 250.5, right? It was not sorted at that point of time. Govin. Was it sorted at this point of time? How do you think this is sorted? It was not sorted. 374. How is it sorted? It was not sorted. Okay, now look at this. Ignore whether it is sorted or not. Ignore that. Look at this. So can I say, based on what a comma b is, there are two possibilities now. Actually, three possibilities. Either this function is going to return a value which will be greater than 0, or less than 0, or equal to 0. Yes or no? Either it will be greater than 0, or less than 0, or equals to 0. These are the only three possibilities that the sort method is going to return no matter what. Now, when this happens, when it returns greater than 0, what does that mean? That means A is greater than B. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? When A is greater than B, then only it will return greater than 0. In that particular case, whenever our comparison function returns a positive number, in that case, JavaScript does swapping. It will swap A with B, A position with B position. It will swap it. Because let's suppose we will take example of these two. So A is 31, B is 17. Now A minus B, of course, is 14, which is greater than 0. In this case, we all can agree that it is going to do a swap. So 17 will be here, 31 will be here. That's how it works. If it is less than 0 or equal to 0, no swap, because of course in that particular case it's already sorted. So if your comparison function returns positive number, for those two a comma b that it has taken at that point of time, it will swap. But if it returns a negative number, it's not going to swap. Or if it takes 0, it's not going to swap. For example, I will have over the number minus 100.5. This is A, and B is equals to 250.9 or 250 only. Now, if I do A minus B is minus 100 minus 250, which is minus 350 point something, right? So, of course, in this case, it's negative, and of course, the order is properly, they are in sorted manner. So, why would we want to swap? In this case, JavaScript does not swap. So this is the logic. Whenever it is positive, if the comparison function returns positive number, the A and B at that point of they are going to swap with respect to each other. If it's going to return negative number, they are not going to swap with respect to each other. Or if they are equal, it means whether you swap them or not, it's one of the same thing. Now, when will it return, guys, 0? When will your comparison function return 0? Can you guys tell me? When will it return 0? Under one condition, when A minus B is going to be 0, which is only possible if A is equals to B. So if I am writing A30, B30, it means there are two entries inside my array that are of same magnitude, 30, 30. So why would we want to swap them? Or even if you swap them, it's completely same thing. So in that particular case, it does not make sense. It means only when my comparison function returns greater than number, in that case, please swap. I hope that makes sense. Now, when we say A minus B, you can remember it like this as well. The first argument minus second argument. In that case, it will always try to sort it in an ascending order properly. But if we want to sort it in descending order, the same logic will go B minus A. So we will have same B minus C. In that particular case, if I execute it, you can clearly see it is in descending order. So A minus B will sort in ascending order, and B minus A is going to sort in descending order. Make sure you remember both of these comparison functions in your case. Okay, no issues. Please do that. So let me try to copy this and let me try to paste it. So this will be A minus B, A minus B, and this whole is for ascending order sorting. So I will simply go write ascending order. Okay, and then this over here, this will be for descending order, like this. Okay, I hope this makes sense. I hope sort method is also clear. Am I clear, guys, with sort? Am I clear with sort? Am I clear with sort? Perfectly fine. Very good. Now, there are few more methods that we will discuss, and then we will close our arrays discussion over here. And although there are a lot of other things that we need to discuss, like separate operator, we need to understand sort, rest operator, which we will understand in our next class. Although, honestly, I'm not sure whether we will have our second class tomorrow or not now, because there is some very serious discussion, very serious what that समझना इस बैच को अच्छे से कि क्या सीन है क्या नहीं है. So we will see whether we will have our tomorrow's class or not, but as of now, let's discuss few other more methods. Let me try to comment all of the code here, and I will simply define one another array. The array, these two methods are very important as well, very important. Okay, ARR is equals to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, and on this array, I will use a very simple method. Okay, which is called a sum method. Let's say I will simply say let my x is equals to. Let my x is equals to. On my ARR, please implement a sum method, and it's also a looping method. It will also receive item comma index. So let me pass comma item only. And then I'm simply going to say whether this item is going to return greater than 4. Okay. So do you think in this array that I have created, there is a single element that satisfies this condition? Yes or no? Do you think there is any element that satisfies this condition? Yes or no? Of course, there is 5, there is 6, there is 7, there is 8, there is 9. Now, sum method actually returns Boolean. The sum method that we have, it does not return an array. It does not return any value. It returns Boolean. And when we say Boolean, it means either true or false. It will either return true or false. But it will return true only under one condition. When at least, even if an at least one element of my original array satisfies the condition. And there is such case, 6 satisfies, 7 satisfies, there is at least one element that satisfies this condition. That's why if I try to execute it over here, you can clearly see it returns true. Very good. What if I will write item greater than 41? Is there even a single element that satisfies this condition? No. There's no such element that satisfies this condition. So in this case, if I try to execute, you can clearly see it's false. So sum is a very simple and very particular method here that actually implements a check on my array whether at least one element satisfies a particular condition or not. Even if there's no element, it will return only false under one condition, when there's no element satisfies the condition. If no element satisfies the condition, then only it will return false. If there's element that is satisfying the condition, in that case it will return true. Remember that. To this, there's one similar method that we have called as every method. Now whatever sum does, every does the same thing, but in this case it makes sure if all of the element, which means every single element, it will return true only if all of the element satisfies the proper callback function that we are passing as an argument. So if I simply go, is my element greater than 2, is the all elements greater than 2, do you think it's going to return true or false? What do you think? What is it going to return? What is it going to return? It is going to return, it is going to return false, because there is still one element over there at the index 0 2 which is not satisfying the condition. So in this case, if I try to execute it, you can clearly see it returns false. It returns false over there. Now if I write over there greater or equals to 2, if I write greater or equals to 2, in this particular case, every single element, if you look at this particular array that we have, satisfies the condition, because it is they are either greater than 2 or equals to 2. So over here it returns now true. So we have some method which simply returns boolean if even at least one element satisfies the condition. But on the other hand, if you ever have a requirement where your each and every single individual element should satisfy a condition, in that particular case we use a method called as every method. Now let's discuss more two methods only. Okay, let's suppose I have an array. Okay, I have an array, and that array simply is defined like this. Let my ARR is equals to, I will have an array 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And on this array, I simply want, I have a purpose with the help of which I want to simply find some element. Find an element whether it exists here or not. Or find an element that satisfies a particular condition or not. A condition implemented by my callback function. How can I do that? How can I implement that? Let's understand it. So I will simply go tell it on my ARR, and it returns the element over there itself. So I will simply say let x is equals to, on my ARR, please find an element. Find which element, where it is going to receive item, comma index as well. So it receives two arguments. Similarly, every also receives two arguments, item, comma index. Some receives also two arguments, item, comma index. Where I simply would want it to implement a condition. Find returns the first element. It does not return all the elements that satisfy the condition. For example, I will simply say, please return where elements are greater than 2. And how many elements are there that are greater than 2? Let's say instead of 2, let's say 5. How many elements are that are greater than 5? There are 6, there's 7, there's 8, there's 9. And it does not mean in X it will hold the array of 6, 7, 8, 9. No. It will hold the first element that matches the condition. So I will simply go at console.log my X. And in this case, if I try to execute it, you can clearly see it returns the first element. So find method, the purpose of find method is it returns the first element in the array that satisfies a provided testing condition, the provided testing function that I have implemented as a callback function there. And it returns the value of that first matching element. It returns the value of the first matching element. And let's suppose there's no element that satisfies the condition. Is there any element that satisfies the condition? In that case, what's it going to return? In this case, if you go, since there's no element, it will return undefined. And you can clearly see that. If none of the elements match the satisfying function that you have passed over there, in that particular case, the function that we actually have returns over there undefined. But if the function is there, function exists, in that particular case, we can clearly understand one very important point, which is it is going to return the value of the first element it matches. Okay, I hope find is also clear. Similar to the same method, we also have one another method here called as find index, which exactly works similar to what find is. But in this case, the first element, it satisfies the condition to the first element. It will return index of that element. What is the index of 6 here? The index of 6 is 3. So if I execute it, it will return 3. So you need to understand over here one very important point, and which is that when we talk about find, it returns the first element's value, but find index returns the first element that it matches it returns index of that element. Please make sure you like this video right now, okay, if you have not already done that. Okay, so we have console.log x here, and you can clearly see it returns over here 3, because that's what is the first element that matches the condition. You guys tell me quickly in the chat, if I write 3 like this, greater than 3, what is the output that it is going to give me? If this is the satisfying condition that I have, what will be the output of this code? In this case, it will match the condition. The first element that matches the condition, it's going to return index of that. And you can clearly see, if I execute it, you can see it returns me 1. Now if I go write something like this, is there any element that matches the condition? If there is no element that matches the condition, in that case it returns -1. So -1 is the index of the element that is not present in my array that matches the satisfying condition that we have. So always remember this whenever we talk about such method find index. If we talk about find, it will return undefined if there's no element that matches the condition. But if we talk about find index, it is going to return -1 there. It is going to return -1. I hope this is clear. Am I clear with this, guys? Yes or no? Quickly tell me. Am I clear, everyone? Am I clear? Done? Done? Do we have any questions? Do we have any questions? No? Let's understand one last method, and then we will close our today's session. Okay. There are still a lot of methods. Includes is there, last index of is there. So you can check rest of the methods on your own. But there's one another method that we might come across in arrays when we talk about our web development. Let's suppose I have an array. Let my ARR is equals to 3, 4, 5, 6. And on this ARR, what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to implement a method called as join. So let me simply say let x is equals to ARR dot join. What does join method actually do? Join method is a method with help of which this method is going to return string. So if you have an array, you want to convert it to a string, or you want to perform some operation on it and then return the values as string, in that case we use join. And right now if I try to console.log my x, and if I go and execute this x, you can clearly see it returns me not an array but 3, 4, 5, 6. And by default, it will put comma in between. But if we want to put anything else in this string, maybe our intention is that we don't want comma, we want dash in between. So in this case, the join receives the argument. The argument is what will be the separator between the values that this array contains in return string that we have. So in this case, if I execute it, you can clearly see now it's 3 -4 -5 -6. If I want to print adfer over here, it means this adfer will behave as a separator now in the string that we have. So if I put space over here, if I put space here, and now if I execute, you can clearly see it's 3 adfer, 4 adfer, 5 adfer, 6 adfer. So join is that method. Similar to this, we have other method over there. Like for example, if I simply say console.log, please on my original array, tell me what is the index of what? Index of 4. If I want to execute, you can clearly see you can get 1 is the index of this. So if you want to get index of, if you want to see whether it is there or not, you can clearly see console.log over there Instead of this, I will simply say, does it contain include? Is there 4 in my array that I have? So if I execute it, you can clearly see it gives me true or it gives me false. Why? So if I execute it, there's an error. AR, okay, I may have missed CL over there. So includes over there. So if I execute, you can clearly see it gives me true. If I write over there, let's suppose 44, since this does not, it's not there. If I execute, you can clearly see it will be false. So there are a lot of methods here. You just have to practice as much as you can. Create different programs. I will give you a homework in today's class as well, assignment hopefully. But we have to first of all see how many serious students we have, and for those serious students I will have to do something. Okay, and I will not leave those serious students. That's a promise from my side. Whether I have to shift to Google Classmeet, whether I have to shift to Zoom, or whether we will be on YouTube only, but expectations will be clear. Like right now we have 400 students, and expectations are definitely that at least 100 students should be here. But when I see 19 students in the first half an hour, it was only 19 students, and that's why it was like, no, that's not acceptable. But let's see what we can do for all the serious students, and we will continue for serious students only. We will try to see how we can limit this particular batch for some students only. Okay, na? With this bit out, see, in live sessions, I do not allow to unmute. Okay, in live sessions, like we can have doubt sessions separately, but there's some time issues that I'm right now facing. I have a lot of other things that we are doing, but we can see what we can do. Okay, na? I won't, but it depends on the students as well, right? Because there must be proper response from the students, and unfortunately, I'm not getting that, right? No, no. If that would have been the agenda from this course, Pratimesh, trust me, I would have not started this, because I already am doing good with other batches. Okay, so this is not the agenda. I'm not here to earn from this, badge. Honestly, मेरा वो agenda है ही नहीं, and that's why I think maybe because of that reason as well, people are taking it very very lightly because it's free, right? That's not how it works, Prathimesh. Like if I charge right now, do you think पैसे के पीछे किसी का ईमान रहता है? How can I refund that later on? That is difficult, and I won't do that, right? Perfect. I guess let me share the address link now. I will give you some time. Please make sure that you submit the address quickly. And let's go here. Let me try to find the address link quickly. So let me paste the link in the chat. Okay. So I have shared the link, and in today's class, we have discussed a lot of methods. Okay, we have started our discussion with for each loop. We have discussed then map method, filter method, reduce method. We have discussed find index, sum, every, sort, and we have discussed join method, index of, include, slice. So all of these methods have been discussed in today's class, and I have shared the address link. And please submit your address. And trust me, if you have joined now, just to mark your address, your address is not even. It does not matter whether you mark the address or not. Trust me. Even if I share that list where you are marked present, it does not matter. It does not matter whether you mark the attendance. So it's better to not fill it. Even if you fill it, I know students who are continuously active. I have 28 students right now, 29 students who are active, and I have those names. So there's no point of you marking the attendance. If you are a serious student, or if you want to be a serious student from now on, then only mark the attendance. Then it might be considered. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you have enjoyed the session. Right? Do we have any questions? We will think what we can do related to tomorrow's session. I'm not sure whether we will take our class very soon or not. Submitted. Very good. I will also do one thing. I will also try to share a little bit note on all these methods that we have. Okay. So these methods that we have discussed in today's class, I will try my best to share them with all of you. whether we talk about any method related to arrays. And there are few other methods which I might have not discussed, I might have missed, right? But still, I think we have discussed 15 to 18 methods. With this, we have not completed though our arrays, because there are a lot of other things. We have to discuss our for off loop, for off method. We have to discuss our, what is this called, separate operator, rest operator, uh, shadow copy, deep copy. We have discussed that as well, and maybe something else in areas. And in our next class, not sure when that is going to be now, but in next class, if that happens, we are going to continue arrays for half an hour, and then we are going to discuss start objects. I IIFE. We have already discussed that in our previous class, Basu. Please refer to that in our functions video. I think in our under the hood part 2, we have discussed this over here. I'm not sure right now. We will see what we can discuss, and we will see what we can do over there. ठीक है ना? तो हम देखते हैं कि whether we will have our class tomorrow or not. Okay, it depends on the students' response. I will create a Google form and we will see what we can do. ठीक है ना? Okay, I guess you can give me the feedback. They are on YouTube. Yes, they are in my channel under the playlist August 2024. But also, please make sure once this class is completed, you put a valid comment there. Put a valid comment there, okay, and see. Give me the feedback. That's what motivates me, inspires me. Okay. Haha, these live sessions are also live on YouTube later on. They get uploaded on YouTube. Even immediately they get uploaded there. Anil. So you can go right now and you can watch them once this I close this session. It's there, okay? So please make sure you share, you subscribe, you like, and also please put a valid comment once this class is ended. So thank you so much, guys. Bye, everyone. Hopefully see you very soon. Thank you so much. Bye.